It's obvious. God is still speaking, a good sign of the health and vitality of our churches as we face the challenges in the future. Recently, I had the privilege of gathering with 8 of my peers from across the UCC for a frank discussion of our concerns and hopes as we seek to answer our call to ministry now and in the future. Here's a brief segment from the upcoming DVD.
We keep being asked what it is that we feel called to do. And we have some ideas about that, but we have even more questions.
Can we actually build community outside of our walls? And what would that look like?
Sometimes we get so focused on social justice and social action that we lose some of our grounding.
And so for the foreseeable future, what I would really like to see is that we take faith seriously, but that we don't take ourselves so seriously.
Part of what God's still speaking means is that we have to take the risk of doing something differently, sometimes looking silly, sometimes having it fail, but trying anyway.
We spend so much time trying to describe God, and we don't necessarily put our efforts and energy in trying to practice God.
You talk about it, but then when it comes time to actually doing something about it, then people are kind of like, I don't know.
Now that you've been here for a week or a weekend and we've talked about who we are as a church, what are you going to do when you get back to your town, or now, tomorrow, next Sunday, to live into it? How far are you willing to risk it?
The celebration of our 50 years of ministry is, of course, a time to look back. It's also an opportunity to move forward. Hans Holznagel is with 3 of our collegium members to learn about their hopes for the future. Hans?
Thank you, Paul. The Reverend Linda Jaramillo is Executive Minister for Justice and Witness Ministries. Linda, what are your hopes for our Justice Witness in the future?
Hans, my hope is that the United Church of Christ will continue to be faithful to the courageous witness of those who came before us from all 4 of the denominations that now make up this beloved church. My hope is that we will let our light shine in this, our Jubilee year. As you know, in Jubilee, we are called to proclaim the 50th year as the year of the Lord's favor, to let the oppressed go free, to forgive debts, and to return the land to its original owners. My hope is that we will continue to stand with those who have been denied voice and create space for them to be heard. Our always speaking voices must quietly listen for the whispers that emerge as the oppressed regain their courage to speak. The United Church of Christ stands on solid ground because it is rooted in an understanding that God is a God of love and a God of justice. My hope and my prayer is that we continue to keep justice not as a part of the church, but at the heart of the church, because that is what Jesus taught us to do.
Thank you, Linda. Edith Guffey is our Associate General Minister. Edith, as you look to the future, what are your hopes and dreams for the United Church of Christ?
You know, Hans, it's generally a bit sinful to always want more. But that pretty much sums up my hopes for our future as a denomination, and actually for my ministry as well. I hope for more vital and growing local churches that are committed to proclaiming the gospel message of God's extravagant welcome. I hope for more of our members who see justice as a core part of what it means to follow Jesus, and for more openness and willingness to engage in honest dialogue about difficult and challenging concerns that are a part of our common life. And personally, I just look forward to more opportunities to serve in my own local church, Federated Church in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, and in a variety of other ways here in the national setting.
Thank you, Edith. The Executive Minister for Wider Church Ministries is the Reverend Callie Rogers-Whitty. Callie, please share your hopes for our global mission and ministry.
Thank you, Hans. Just looking at the world news these days can be rather disheartening, and yet it puts my hopes for our church and our future in perspective, because now more than ever the world needs the love of God, and the world needs people committed to serving others. Now, more than ever in this shrinking world, we are called to participate in God's mission of reconciliation and unity. reaching out faithfully to meet the physical, spiritual, emotional, and sometimes economic needs of our brothers and sisters in this global village. Now, more than ever in this conflicted world, with its clash of cultures and rise of religious fundamentalisms, we are called to be Christ's ambassadors of reconciliation, called to bring peace with justice to the far corners of the world. Now, more than ever, the world needs idealistic people, young and old, with a passion and a fervor for working for the common good. Now, more than ever, the Holy Spirit seeks to stir up our hearts to change the world. And for that, I'm very hopeful for our United Church of Christ and for our world.
Thank you, Callie, and thank you, all of you. And also, we offer a word of thanks to Joe Malang for his ministry. He's Executive Minister of Local Church Ministries. Today, he had a commitment at UCC-related Talladega College, and he's unable to be with us today.
Thanks, Hans, and members of the Collegium of Officers. Our next U2 segment was submitted by the Ball Pate Boys from the Congregational United Church of Christ in Topsfield, Massachusetts.
We are the UCC, for we ourselves have said it, and which makes me to our credit, that we are the UCC, that we are the UCC, for we might have all been Methodist, or Lutheran, or Baptist, or Episcopalian, or Episcopalian, for despite of all temptations to change denominations, we make a UCC, we remain
We'd like to welcome our General Minister and President, Reverend John Thomas, who will respond to some of the questions that have been submitted. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Paul. Megan, thank you. And before we go to the questions, I have a word for Holy Trinity United Church of Christ in Hagerstown, Maryland, where I preached this morning for their 50th anniversary. Amen. I made it back safe. I'm in Cleveland, and no unpleasant experiences with the Pennsylvania State Police.
Well, congratulations. Our first question, what exactly makes the UCC so different from our other partners in faith?
We share a commitment to Jesus Christ, but we have found a way to reach out in an extravagant welcome, not always fully successfully, but a broad welcome. And we've been a people ready to speak with evangelical courage at the moments when justice demands it. I think that's what makes us distinctive.
Our next question asks, how are we designing our future to meet the challenges of the next 50 years?
I hope that we're designing that future by listening to God, the still speaking God, and also listening to people all around the world, people who speak in other languages, but particularly people who speak in other faith traditions, asking us challenging questions and calling us into Ubuntu with them, into partnership, into Gemütlichkeit with people all over the world so that we can listen together to the still speaking God.
And our final question. How do we build on this connection, the connection that we've built with this vibrant webcast?
Well, Paul, I'm the last one to talk about how we build a connection with technology. But I hope with this kind of wonderful new experience, together with that good old-fashioned touch, we can find ways to build on the covenant that unites us together and celebrate all those connections that have been an important part of our life, right from that handshake that George photographed right to this moment on our webcast.